Hello, my name is Arsul, and I know exactly what you're thinking. And yes, this is definitely a picture of me in real life. I have no reason to lie to you guys whatsoever. So, my research question is how we consume news in our social circle. Now, you may be sitting there wondering, Arsul, what's a social circle? Or you may not be wondering that because you might be smarter than me and actually know what a social circle is. And you know what? I'm just going to tell you either way. A social circle is basically people like your friends or your parents, sister, family, people you often socialize with. So it could be anyone that you talk to regularly. So my family consists of my dad, my mom, my sister, and me. And the type of news or the type of news platforms that we use are sometimes different between all of us. Like my dad, he uses YouTube almost all the time for consuming news. My mom uses news channels like global news and other channels like that, and sometimes Google. My sister uses either Instagram or Snapchat, and I sometimes use Google. I sometimes use YouTube or Instagram, and then I use a bit of Reddit as well. Uh, but that's my family and my friends. Most of them, for the sake of argument, let's say I had friends, they would be using Instagram. Uh, so yeah. Now let's talk about the pros and the cons of getting news from your social circle. One of the strengths that I find is that because you're talking to people you know or you like people you socialize with, it's a conversation. You're talking to each other, so it'll flow naturally, and the information you get from the news that they'll tell you, and the topics will constantly be changing because it's a conversation. It'll flow. So that's one of the strengths. The second strength would be that uh, you're able to get information from different platforms without actually using those platforms. Because let's say I talk to my friend, if I had any, I talk to them and they're on Instagram looking at different type of news stories and uh, articles, and then I talk to my mom and she might give me different news from Google or from the actual news channels that she watches. And so something like that is also a pro, in my opinion, I feel. But the pro can also be the weakness. And I think that even though that is the strength of having your news because of a social circle, it is also its weakness because it's word from mouth to mouth. Sometimes they're based off rumors. Sometimes they get information not only from IG. Sometimes they'll get information like my friends will get information from their parents, or my mom could get information from like her sisters and brothers and her friends. And so misinformation can spread easily. And also because it's a conversation and you're talking, you're not going to get the full story because sometimes the conversation will switch topics. Because it's a conversation, it'll switch topics very easily. So you won't be able to get the full story about what this particular story will be about. So there's also another problem, I think, is a con for not looking for from multiple perspectives, is that, or not perspective, as in multiple channels or multiple sources, is that sometimes the information can be wrong entirely, and it won't be the fault necessarily of the person you're talking to. It could be the fault of the channel, or like, for example, if my dad told me something that he watched on Google, it or not Google, YouTube, it came from a specific news channel. It could be wrong, not necessarily, but there's a chance that it can be wrong and that information can be false, so that they're not giving my dad the entire story, so that he gets confused and it ends up giving me wrong information. So that's what, in my opinion, are the pros and the cons. And summary is that it's good to talk to your social circle about, news, but you should probably check everything that they tell you and make sure you're getting the full story so that you can understand it properly. And being able to receive a lot of information over a short period of time is kind of bad because you don't retain much of that information sometimes. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you.